Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. So the Defense Department spends hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars every year on goods and services provided by contractors. Federal workplace safety inspectors have found that some companies, including Navy shipbuilding contractors, have endangered their workers, resulting in deaths, extensive burns, and other serious injuries. And they keep right on getting massive government contracts. We have plenty of laws requiring these federal contractors to operate more safely, but all the laws on the books won't do any good unless there's serious enforcement. So, Secretary Spencer, I appreciate your willingness to work with me to ensure that American workers employed by the Navy can work in safe conditions. Can you briefly describe the efforts that you've directed the Navy to undertake to improve contractors' compliance with worker protection laws?
Thank you, Senator. When I first testified to take this position, I think you and I had this conversation.
Yes, we did.
I promised you that we would take action. What we have done, this really is a whole-of-government solution, and I'm certainly not taking the responsibility off the back of the Navy whatsoever, but OSHA is in here front and center. And they, like many organizations, have their constraints, both fiscally and manpower. Does not alleviate the fact the situation is being focused upon. We have spoken to those that we are contracting with that have violations and said, one, we will not tolerate this. On our next, if in fact there is a breach from normal safety manners to cause accident and or detriment to the workers, we have the ability through funds to correct behavior.
Okay, so I'm glad you've started with them in a conversation, but I think we're going to have to be systematic about this in order to make sure that they keep everyone safe. Let me ask you about some examples. To comply with federal rules, Navy contractors must have a safety officer on site to identify dangerous conditions and enforce occupational safety standards. But the person could be anyone, from a trained and certified professional to the most junior person hanging out at the site. So when the Navy signs a contract, the contracting officer can designate a list of key personnel. These are specific, skilled, or technical individuals who are identified as being critical to the success of the work. Secretary Spencer, for contracts that meet a threshold of cost or complexity, do you think that the Navy should consider designating the safety officer as key personnel?
Yes.
Good. I like that. And the contractors need to know that the Navy expects them to protect their workers if they're going to get taxpayer dollars. Last year, the NDAA required the Government Accountability Office to study DoD's procedures for evaluating workplace safety records for the contractors, but we don't have to wait for a GAO report. We can start now, and I appreciate your help on this.
Most definitely.
Good. So let me ask about another area. The Trump administration recently released National Defense Strategy says that, quote, long-term strategic competitions with China and Russia are the principal priorities for the Department of Defense. The strategy stresses the need to invest in advanced capabilities for a high-end fight. The Navy has a number of ambitious technological goals in the coming years, from unmanned autonomous systems to electronic warfare to nanotechnology. Today, a lot of this cutting-edge technology is not developed within the Pentagon. It comes from the commercial sector or laboratories at our colleges and universities. So, Secretary Spencer, how does the Navy intend to capitalize on commercial and academic developments in advanced technology? And can you just say a brief word about what steps you're taking to make sure that the Navy is closely tied to outside innovators?
Senator, it warms my heart to answer this question because we do have a tall task in front of us. One of the things we're doing right now, just to start at the top, is we are binning our science and technology investments to align with the National Defense Strategy, the 10 buckets that Mike Griffin is helping us identify and bin. It is imperative that we do not only our work internally within the Office of Naval Research, but it is imperative that we reach out into our private sector community. As you know, up in Massachusetts, between Lincoln Labs and other efforts we have up there, Woods Hole, we have some amazing research going on outside the organization. One of the things that I have taken on at the turn of the year was a crown jewel, Senators, that we have in the Navy, which is the Naval Postgraduate School. It is a research-oriented educational institution. We are now supercharging it to put it into its next orbit. We had conversations with the likes of Eric Schmidt and some others from the Innovation Board and said, we continue to try to have a relationship with you and drive up and say, what can we buy, what can we do together? And the thesis that I had was, what better way to create a relationship than to research, basic, relevant research, where we can get two organizations working together on a solution. If, in fact, they can commercialize that solution, we'll take a licensing agreement and provide some value to us and value to them. And then we can take that intellectual property and apply it within the DoD. The Naval Postgraduate School will be the center of excellence for this, for not only the Navy and the DoD, but we hope all of government.
Good. I'm very glad to hear this, Secretary Spencer. You know, the Navy needs to stay closely integrated with our innovators, whether they're in government or out of government. I'm glad to see you take this approach.
And actually, the conversation I had just last week, Senator, was with Bob Millard at MIT, who welcomes this and looks forward to doing what he can do with the Naval Postgraduate School.
Good. Well, let us know how we can help. Thank you.